Quý vị thân mến, và ngay sau đây, ban tổ chức xin được mời quý vị, chúng ta sẽ cùng hướng mắt về màn hình sân khấu để sự kiện tổng quan thị trường và dự báo xu hướng nội ngoại thất toàn cầu xin được phép chính thức bắt đầu. Xin được chào mừng tất cả quý vị, chúng ta đang có mặt tại chương trình ngày hôm nay tại buổi tọa đàm chuyên ngành nội ngoại thất với chủ đề tổng quan thị trường và dự báo các xu hướng nội ngoại thất toàn cầu. A warmly welcome to everyone joining us for today's Furniture Industry Talkshow, Global Future Outlook and Trend Forecast. And my name is Thúy Vi, and it's truly honor for me to be an MC to event today. Và lời đầu tiên, Thúy Vi sẽ được thay lời cho những người làm chương trình gửi đến quý vị lời chào, lời chúc sức khỏe, cũng như là chúc cho quý vị chúng ta sẽ có những trải nghiệm thật tuyệt vời buổi sáng ngày hôm nay cùng với sự kiện của chúng tôi. Kính thưa quý vị, sự kiện hôm nay là nơi hội tụ những chuyên gia hàng đầu từ các tổ chức và các tạp chí uy tín nhất trong ngành nội thất toàn cầu. Và chương trình ngày hôm nay rất vinh hạnh vì chúng tôi, công ty Liên Minh, là đơn vị phát triển cũng như tổ chức cho sự kiện ngày hôm nay. Kính thưa quý vị, và để mở đầu cho những nội dung chuyên sâu cũng như mở đầu cho sự kiện ngày hôm nay, chúng ta sẽ cùng nhìn lại toàn cảnh thị trường nội thất năm 2025 và các quy định mới. And now, first of all, our speaker will bring us the theme of the status and perspective of the global furniture sector. Và đầu tiên, chúng ta sẽ chào đón trên sân khấu vị diễn giả, ông Stefan Miochen, Phó Tổng biên tập tạp chí Mobile Markt đến từ Đức. And now, please welcome to the stage, Mr. Stefan Miochen, Vice Chief Editor, Mobile Markt Magazine, Germany. Please welcome.
So I think it will work. This is my presentation. Yes. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning to all together. Thank you very much to VIFA EXPO for the invitation to speak here again this year as part of the exhibition. This is the third time I have had the opportunity and the honor to address you in this setting, and I'm truly pleased about that. In Germany, we have a saying, when you do something for the third time, it becomes a tradition. Let me briefly introduce myself. My name is Stefan Mielchen, and I have been working as a journalist for many years. For the past 4 years, I have served as vice chief editor of the German trade magazine Möbelmarkt. Before that, I spent 10 years leading the editorial team of a magazine focused on the bedding industry. So I've been closely connected with the furniture and textile sectors for many years. At Möbelmarkt, I'm responsible, among other things, for reporting on Asian markets. In addition, I'm a board member of the International Alliance of Furniture Publications, or IAFP. Allow me to begin with a preliminary remark. We are currently operating in an environment shaped by geopolitical tensions, increasing regulation, rising sustainability requirements, and structural changes in global supply chains. The furniture industry is not immune to these developments. Hardly a day goes by without us being confronted with major global challenges, whether political conflicts and wars, as now at Iran, disruptions to global trade, or the erratic tariff policy of the US government. This makes dialogue all the more important. Trade fairs such as VIFA EXPO have developed into strategic hubs in the process of globalization. They connect global business opportunities and reshape the coordinates of supply chains. They support not only, but especially Vietnamese interior companies on their path from simple exporters to globally active players, and at the same time, they help international buyers find strong and reliable partners in Vietnam. Let us take a look at the current development of the global economy. At the beginning of January, the International Monetary Fund published the following forecast. Global growth is expected to remain stable at 3.3% in 2026 and 3.2% in 2027. These figures are roughly in line with the estimated result of 3.3% for 2025. It is interesting to see how this growth is distributed. According to the forecast, Europe shows the weakest figures. The United States, as well as Latin America and the Caribbean, are also expected to grow below the global average. In contrast, regions such as the Middle East, Sub-Saharan Africa and Asia are projected to grow above average, although it is important to consider the starting level from which this growth occurs. And the effects of the current war in the Middle East are not yet known either. You only need to look at the current oil and gas prices to know that prices and costs will continue to rise. Let us now move from the overall economy to the furniture industry. In the left-hand chart, we see the world's leading furniture exporting countries: China, Vietnam, Poland, Italy, and Germany. These figures were compiled by the Italian Market Research Institute, CSIL. After a sharp increase in 2021, China's exports declined significantly in 2022 and 2023, with a partial recovery in 2024. In 2025, last year, however, Chinese furniture exports declined again and are now almost back to the level of 2023. Pardon me. I will return to this point later. What is clear is that pressure from US tariffs continues, and this increases the need for China to find new markets for its products. This is felt not only in other Asian countries, but also in European markets. While China recorded a significant decline in furniture exports last year, and European countries remained at roughly stable levels, Vietnam has been able to significantly increase its exports again since 2023. Vietnam remains the world's second largest furniture exporter, and its importance continues to grow, despite the large gap compared to China. In the right-hand chart, we see the world's leading furniture importing countries: the United States, Germany, the United Kingdom, France, and the Netherlands. US furniture imports amounted to $41 billion in 2024, representing roughly 1/4 of global imports. In 2025, the tariffs that came into force and above all the widespread climate of uncertainty in the US led to a decline in imports. Let's have a more detailed look at Europe. Europe continues to play a very important role in the global furniture industry. In 2025, production reaches around 104 billion euros, while consumption is even slightly higher at 110 billion euros. The sector includes approximately 138,000 companies and employs more than 1 million people. Last year, the industry operates in a difficult economic environment. Household purchasing power remains weak, consumer confidence is low, and the housing market is subdued. At the same time, companies face rising costs for labor, raw materials, and regulatory compliance. As a result, the overall industry shows a slight decline in 2025. However, the second half of the year shows some stabilization with improving orders and activity in several markets. The situation differs significantly across countries. France and Germany show the weakest results, mainly due to weak domestic demand and low consumer confidence. Italy experiences a modest contraction, mainly because exports have declined. Spain performs positively in 2025, supported by stronger household spending and a more dynamic housing market. Several Eastern European countries, such as the Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Lithuania, achieve relatively better results thanks to strong export activity. Poland shows growth in real terms, mainly due to falling prices. However, manufacturers there face serious margin pressure because of rising wages, raw material challenges, and declining selling prices. Exports outside the European Union now account for about 12% of total European production, slightly higher than 2019. The United States remains the most important non-EU export market, followed by the United Arab Emirates and China. However, trade tensions, tariffs, and cooling global demand make export planning more difficult. This increases uncertainty for European companies. At the same time, import pressure within Europe is increasing. Extra EU imports now represent around 22% of the European market compared to 18% in 2019. China remains the leading supplier, followed by Turkey and Vietnam. This development raises an important strategic question. How competitive can European manufacturers remain both globally and within their own market? Looking ahead, demand in 2026 in Europe is expected to remain almost stagnant. Consumers are still cautious and tend to save more. Additionally, many households are spending more on experiences rather than durable goods like furniture. European manufacturers describe the situation as pressure from multiple sides. They face geopolitical uncertainty, trade tensions, rising labor and production costs, and increasing regulatory and sustainability requirements. Because of this uncertainty, many companies are postponing investments, which could slow future growth. But this is not only a European problem. The CSIL Institute states, international furniture trade is currently experiencing a period of unprecedented uncertainty. The unpredictability of trade policy and tariffs is likely to continue. Preliminary estimates by analysts point to only very modest growth in global furniture trade compared to the previous year. According to CSIL, the outlook is negatively affected by ongoing high uncertainty in trade policy, as there are no clear and lasting agreements between trading partners. This situation is linked, among other factors, to the policy of the US administration under Donald Trump. The effects of the tariffs introduced after his return to Oval Office in 2025 will continue to be clearly felt this year. Even the recent ruling of the Supreme Court of the United States is unlikely to fundamentally change this situation. The unpredictability of the US president remains a challenge for global economic development. This affects China in particular, the world's largest furniture exporter. In China, uncertainty regarding tariffs between the US and China, declining consumption of home furnishing in the US, and high interest rates have led to a significant drop in orders from the United States. Let us take a closer look at China. China is at the center of developments in the global furniture market. With around 35 to 40% of global furniture production and about 30% of global furniture exports, the country is a systemically important player for international companies, retailers, project developers, and investors. However, it is also true that China's furniture exports declined in 2025. From January to November 2025, they fell by 5.1%. In recent years, China has been forced to stabilize its traditional sales markets while at the same time broadening the geographical base of its furniture exports. As a result, exports to Southeast Asia and several European countries have increased. Among the 20 most important export destinations, markets such as the United Kingdom, Germany, Canada, the Netherlands, Thailand, Vietnam, and Indonesia recorded continuous growth. In the first 11 months of 2025, exports to Vietnam increased by more than 12%, while exports to Indonesia grew by more than 8%, making them some of the strongest growth markets. China's furniture industry is pursuing a dual-track export strategy. Orders with low added value are increasingly relocated to Southeast Asia, while high value added production remains within the domestic supply chain. This also means that China's export structure is shifting from high dependence on a single market to a multi-regional, multi-layered and decentralized structure. In the medium to long term, reducing dependence on the United States and diversifying across several markets remains the strategic objective. This export path is more demanding but necessary. The extensive price-driven model is losing effectiveness. Companies with strong design capabilities, reliable delivery performance, compliance expertise, and proximity to markets are gaining more opportunities to enter new markets. There is no doubt that Chinese manufacturers have the capability to produce for demanding customers at a high design level. Let us look how Chinese furniture exports are distributed geographically. The main export regions are North America, Europe, Asia Pacific, and some other markets. These figures clearly show why trade policy tensions such as tariffs, anti-dumping measures, or supply chain regulations have an immediate impact on corporate strategy. This can be illustrated by the trade conflict between the US and China. The additional US tariffs imposed on Chinese furniture by the Trump administration led in the short term to relocation of production by Chinese manufacturers to Southeast Asia, price increases in the US consumer market, and in the medium term also to a strategic repositioning of Chinese suppliers toward higher value segments. At the same time, new sales markets are increasingly coming into focus. Furniture consumption growth in emerging markets reached 10.5% in India and 6.2% in Brazil. These are impressive figures, and they signal a strategic shift in global furniture consumption. With the rapid rise of the middle class and accelerated urbanization in emerging economies, these countries are becoming new growth poles for both global furniture production and consumption. India, with an estimated population of more than 1.45 billion people, is now the most populous country in the world. Brazil has a population of more than 212 million. Not only, but especially for Chinese furniture companies expanding globally, these markets represent significant long-term growth potential. Traditional consumer markets, such as the United Kingdom, Germany, and France, on the other hand, show more differentiated developments influenced by fluctuations in energy prices and production costs. While nominal data in Germany and France remain relatively weak, leading to accelerated capacity reductions and brand consolidation, positive growth in the United Kingdom and Italy shows that major markets still possess stable purchasing power in premium design and customized solutions. The greatest challenge at present remains the persistent global political uncertainty, which continues to negatively affect business sentiment in the furniture sector. This also applies to household spending behavior. After difficult years in 2024 and 2025, global furniture consumption across 100 countries is expected to grow by only 1% in 2026. In this complex environment, CSIL conducted a survey among global industry associations. The main results show that the biggest challenges in 2025 were lower export volumes and declining price competitiveness. 65% of respondents stated that companies are entering new or emerging markets, particularly in the Middle East, Africa, South America, and India. CSIL believes that several positive factors could support future export volumes. New and ongoing trade agreements such as the EU-Mercosur agreement, Vietnam's free trade agreements, and others may open new markets and improve trading conditions. In addition, growing global demand for sustainable and certified products is seen as a positive trend that promotes environmentally friendly and innovative furniture. Let me return once more to China. Because the Chinese model illustrates how success is possible even in challenging times. The international competitiveness of Chinese furniture manufacturers is no longer based solely on labor cost advantages. China is no longer simply a low-cost workbench for the West, as it once was. Instead, China has developed a systemic efficiency model. This model is characterized by several economic factors. Economies of scale based on large domestic and export markets, high investment in automation and Industry 4.0, state-supported export financing and trade fair promotion, and rapid adaptation of companies to regulatory requirements in target markets. Allow me to illustrate this with a case study: adaptation to regulatory requirements of the European Union. Several major manufacturers from Guangdong, a key region for export-oriented design and upholstered furniture, have systemically aligned their production lines with EU standards. One example is the EU timber regulation, which will be replaced at the end of 2026 by the EU deforestation regulation. This regulation aims to prevent products linked to global deforestation or forest degradation from being placed on the EU market. The EU has therefore established strict due diligence and documentation requirements for affected raw materials. The result of this regulatory adaptation by the Chinese industry is a clear competitive advantage: access to higher priced markets, stronger ties with European trading partners, and improved margins despite higher production costs. In the long term, there's no alternative to complying with EU regulations if companies want to access the European market. Only in December, the European Parliament adopted a new supply chain law, and it is to be expected that sustainability and climate protection will continue to lead to further legislative measures. The EU deforestation regulation is only one example of how sustainability has become a central component of international industrial and trade policy. There's not only greater sensitivity among end consumers, there are also strong political drivers, such as the European Commission's Green Deal initiative, supply chain legislation, and ESG, environmental, social, and governance requirements from international investors. All of this means sustainability is no longer just an image factor. It has become a criterion for market access. Only those who are prepared for this will succeed in the long term. Let me highlight another strategically important shift in China that shows how Chinese companies position themselves in the global market. We increasingly see a transition from OEM, pure contract manufacturing, to ODM, own design and development capabilities, to OBM, own brands with international presence. At major international trade fairs, Chinese companies are increasingly present with their own brands. This applies not only to large industry players such as KUKA or Manhua, but also to many smaller firms. The objectives are clear: higher value creation, direct market access, and reduced dependence on individual large clients. The traditional model of passive foreign trade, acting solely as a supplier dependent on external orders, is gradually being replaced by a new model combining traditional trade, cross-border e-commerce, and overseas brand warehouses. Chinese furniture manufacturers are no longer operating only as OEM producers. They use platforms such as TikTok Shop and Wayfair to analyze consumer demand through big data and achieve fast, localized delivery through strategically positioned overseas warehouses. Increasingly, cooperative systems are emerging in which development and production remain in China, while final assembly and service support are handled abroad. The result is higher profit margins, which in turn strengthen the resilience and competitiveness of Chinese furniture in the global market. Through this approach and through stronger expansion into Southeast Asia, the Middle East, Latin America, and other regions, China's home furnishing industry has demonstrated remarkable supply chain resilience despite tariff pressure and geopolitical competition. China is also using digitalization strategically as an industrial policy instrument, for example, through B2B platforms for international trade, data-driven product development, virtual showrooms, and remote sampling. For internationally operating companies, this means faster time to market, greater transparency, and new cooperation models beyond traditional supplier relationships. And this does not apply to Chinese companies only. Other producing countries like Vietnam can certainly learn from this approach. China's furniture industry is emblematic of the transformation of a globalized industry, from cost orientation to value orientation, from national markets to interconnected markets, from short-term transactions to strategic partnerships. The future of the furniture industry will be shaped where economic policy, corporate strategy, and international cooperation intersect. In this context, trade fairs play a crucial role. Trade fairs are an essential source of insight into global demand. They are a lever for cost-efficient customer acquisition and an integration factor for building resilient global supply chains. Through the trade fair platform, not only business relationships are established, but also knowledge and trust are built among all participants. Nothing replaces direct contact, personal encounters, and exchange between decision makers as they take place at leading international trade fairs. This is especially true in challenging times such as these. Companies that understand change and seize their opportunities arising from current developments will succeed in the long term, connecting markets and creating value. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for your sharing. Thank you. Quý vị thân mến, và vừa rồi chúng ta đã lắng nghe những lời chia sẻ cũng như những thông tin rất bổ ích ngày hôm nay. Và trước khi chúng ta đến với những nội dung tiếp theo, ban tổ chức chúng tôi cũng rất vinh dự vì ngày hôm nay đã chào đón về chương trình 4 vị diễn giả để cùng với chúng tôi chia sẻ cho quý vị những thông tin cực kỳ bổ ích. And now we introduce. Và ngay bây giờ Thúy Vi xin được phép là rất vinh dự khi được giới thiệu đến quý vị khán giả 4 vị diễn giả của chúng ta. And we introduce Mr. Stephen Miochen. And we introduce, thank you, và ông ấy cũng đã vừa chia sẻ với chúng ta những thông tin rất bổ ích. Và and we introduce Mr. Takanori Kigure. Và ngay sau đây thì ông sẽ chia sẻ với chúng ta về những nội dung chiến lược đa dạng hóa thị trường, tổng biên tập, và ông là tổng biên tập điều hành tạp chí Home Living tại Nhật Bản. Và trước đó Thúy Vi cũng rất vinh dự khi chào đón về chương trình. And we introduce Miss Lê Vân Thanh Trà. And now we introduce Mr. Michael Costas. Một lần nữa xin được cảm ơn 4 vị diễn giả. Chúng ta đã dành thời gian quý báu để cùng có mặt trong chương trình ngày hôm nay. Và bây giờ chúng ta sẽ cùng quay trở lại với nội dung trong chương trình ngày hôm nay với phần chia sẻ của quý diễn giả. And as we will explore market diversification strategies. And we welcome to the stage Mr. Takanori Kigure, magazine editor of Home Living magazine of Japan. Please welcome.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Takanori Kigure. Okay, good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Takanori Kigure. I'm a journalist of Home Living, and it is a Japanese trade newspaper specialized in furniture and interior design. And unlike Stefan-san, who was the first speaker, I'm not a traditional speaker because this is the first time for me to speak in the presence of audience in VIFA EXPO. So I'm a bit nervous. Well, the Home Living is disseminating information about furniture and its industry to furniture importers, retailers, and manufacturers in Japan. And I am very honored to have a chance to speak at VIFA EXPO today. Well, let's start my speech. Let us begin with imports. In this table, both the Japanese yen and the US dollar figures are shown in millions. Japanese furniture importers in 2025 was 801.965 billion. Which is about 5.14 billion US dollars. In 2024, imports were 808.969 billion US dollars. This represents a 0.9% decrease, but we can say that imports in Japan remained almost unchanged last year, 2025. In fact, the Japanese furniture industry itself was not good in 2025. The final figures have not yet been compiled, but it is expected to decline by a few percent to 5% compared with the previous year, 2024. Under such circumstances, the fact that total imports declined by less than 1% suggests that imports performed well during the year. Another point we should not overlook in this data is the decline in imports from China. In 2025, Japan imported furniture from China worth 491 billion yen, which is about 3.14 billion US dollars. In 2024, the figure was 502.4 billion yen, or 3.22 billion US dollars, meaning imports from China declined by about 2.3%. One possible reason for this decline is the weaker yen, and as a result, it slightly increased interest in manufacturing within Japan, inside Japan. At the same time, Japanese companies are becoming more interested in diversifying their sourcing rather than relying only on China. They are increasingly looking to other furniture producing countries such as Vietnam and Indonesia. In fact, imports from Indonesia reached 19.3 billion yen, or about 124 million US dollars in 2025, showing a slight increase from 2024. Meanwhile, imports from Vietnam was 99.2 billion yen in 2025, remaining almost unchanged from 2024. Direction? I can change the page. Oh. Okay. Sorry about that. If we look at the data by product category, wooden chairs and sofas appear to have performed well, considering that the overall market in 2025 in Japan was not so strong. The subtotal reached 100.8% year on year. However, when we look at the breakdown, leather sofas and chairs declined while fabric increased. Oh, okay, this page. In recent years, fabric sofas and chairs have become increasingly common in Japan, while leather products have been declining. This result is largely consistent with what we observe in the market. I will return to this point later when discussing market trends. Now let us move on to steel and metal furniture. We can see that the office segment has grown slightly. Although the overall numbers are still relatively small, the office market in Japan is expanding. And the Japanese furniture industry is paying close attention to this demand. In recent years, the replacement demand for this office furniture has gradually been increasing. For reference, although it is not shown in this table, the figure in 2023 was 4.4 billion yen, or about 29 million US dollars. From here, I would like to talk about the outlook for the Japanese furniture industry and introduce some of the products that are currently selling well in the Japanese market. Originally, I had planned to present the performance or total sales of Japanese furniture industry in 2025 today. However, I would like to apologize that I am unable to show the official figures. However, based on our own research, we estimate that the Japanese furniture industry declined by around 5% compared with the previous year, 2024. So the question is this: why did the Japanese furniture industry struggle even though imports remained relatively strong? There are two main reasons for this. There are two reasons for this. The first is the decline in housing starts. The second is the polarization of furniture purchasing. From here, I would like to explain these two factors in more detail. I will also discuss market trends and what kind of furniture are currently being accepted in the Japanese market under these conditions. First, one of the main reasons is the decline in housing starts in Japan, and this is probably the biggest factor. In Japan, it is often said that about half of furniture purchases are made for newly built homes, while the other half are replacement purchases. However, the number of new homes being built is now declining, mainly due to population decline and rising construction costs. In Japan, houses are completed in as little as 6 months after construction begins. But typically, it takes about 8 months to 1 year. Furniture purchases usually increase from about 2 to 3 months before completion until just before the construction is finished. This means that the number of housing starts in 2024 has a major impact on furniture sales in 2025 in Japan. Ideally, we would analyze the number of completed houses, but government statistics only provide data on housing starts, so we use this figure as substitute indicator. So how many housing starts were there in 2024 in Japan? The figure was about 792,200 units. This represents a 3% decline compared with 2023. In simple terms, fewer people built houses, and this is one of the main reasons why the furniture market struggled in 2025 in Japan. Now, if we apply the same logic, we can also estimate what may happen this year in 2026. When houses start construction in 2025, many of the people who will live in those homes will begin buying furniture in 2026 as their homes approach completion. So, how many housing starts were there in 2025 in Japan? The figure was 743,896 units. Compared with 2024, this represents 94% of the previous year's level, a 6% decline. In other words, unfortunately, there is a possibility that furniture sales in 2026 in Japan may decline slightly compared with last year. Next, these figures were published by the Japanese government, and they show the cost of building a house. If we look at the total construction values of all housing starts in Japan, it is almost the same as the previous year. However, when we convert this into the per housing unit, the middle in the table, the cost per housing unit, the figure rises to 107% overall and 105% for privately owned houses. We see the same trend when looking into the cost per square meter. In other words, even though the number of housing starts in Japan has declined, as I explained in the previous page, construction companies have been able to maintain their sales. But in reality, this is mainly because the price per house has increased. For the furniture industry, a decline in the number of housing starts alone already has a negative impact. On top of that, if the price of houses themselves rises, it may limit consumers' budgets for furniture. This is another major concern for Japanese furniture industry. So, does this mean that the outlook for the Japanese furniture market in 2026 is bleak? Not necessarily. As all of you know, furniture is essential to our daily lives. It is something that everyone needs to buy. However, the market is likely to see an increasing polarization between low-priced furniture and high-end furniture. As a result of this polarization, furniture imports have also been increasing. At the same time, the gap between companies that perform well and those that struggle is becoming increasingly clear. To give two examples of companies that are performing well in Japan, I would like to mention Vega Corporation and Actas. These companies are very different types of importers in Japan. Vega Corporation is highly competitive in terms of price, and it is particularly strong among younger consumers. In simple terms, it focuses on affordable furniture. On the other hand, Actas follows a high-end strategy and is strong among relatively affluent consumers in their 40s and older. By looking carefully at these two companies, I believe we can gain a good understanding of the current Japanese furniture market and trend. First, let me introduce Vega Corporation. The rapid growth of Vega Corporation has created quite a star in the Japanese furniture industry. The Japanese furniture industry has long been said to face difficulties due to the declining birth rate, population decline, and an aging society. However, Vega Corporation has targeted younger consumers in their 20s and 30s and has achieved rapid growth through strong marketing strategies and price competitiveness. Now, let us take a look at what kind of products they actually selling. This is one of the best-selling sofas at Vega Corporation, both online and in their physical stores. The price is 59,000 Japanese yen, which is not the cheapest in the Japanese market, but it's still relatively affordable. One key feature is that the sofa can be extended so that users can stretch their legs. It can also recline and transform into a simple bed. The company is also very skilled at promoting these features through social media, especially Instagram. Through this strategy, they have successfully attracted younger consumers in their 20s and 30s. Here is another example of a bigger corporation's product. This is the best-selling dining table. Of course, the company does not only sell multifunction furniture like this. However, it has clearly demonstrated that multifunctional furniture can sell extremely well when it is supported by the right marketing and promotion. This is 4% dining table, but not only the table. The chairs can also be folded. When they are not in use, the fold set can be made very compact like this. In Japanese urban areas where space is very limited, especially among younger customers, there is strong demand for this kind of furniture. What matters here is function, price, and size. And the key to success is how these features are marketed through social medias and video platforms. Whether we like it or not, this type of furniture is what sells well among young consumers in Japan today. Of course, this company sells many products other than multifunctional furniture. For example, this round table is also one of their best-selling items. The price is about $320 US, almost same as the extension sofa I showed to you. Round tables are well suited to the limited living space in Japan, especially in Tokyo. As you know, round tables are very flexible and can fit easily into many different spaces. Among younger consumers in Japan, there is certainly a growing number of people who are attracted to price competitive and multifunctional furniture, like the examples we just saw. However, this does not mean that high-priced, design-oriented furniture is no longer selling. In fact, high-end furniture remains relatively strong in Japanese market. Earlier, I mentioned that the overall performance of Japanese furniture industry in 2025 was not very strong. I explained that this was mainly due to the decline in housing starts and the polarization of the market. As a result of the polarization, the high-end segment is also growing. A good example is Actas, which mainly deals in higher-priced furniture. As this illustration shows, both the high-end segment and the mass-market segments are performing relatively well, while the middle segment, the traditional volume zone, is declining. Because of this structure, the overall market appears weak in Japan, even though both ends of the market are actually growing. Next, I would like to move on to Actas. Actas has annual sales about 23 billion yen, which is roughly 192 million US dollars. This makes it one of the largest furniture retailers in Japan. This company sometimes sells products sourced from Japanese furniture manufacturers, but more than half of its sales comes from its own original products, which are manufactured by the partner factories overseas, mainly in the countries such as China, Vietnam, and Indonesia. One of the key characteristics of Actas is that the company is very trend sensitive and highly skilled at creating inspiring retail space. Therefore, by observing what kinds of products Actas is selling, we can gain a good understanding of current furniture and interior design trends in Japan. So before introducing the products that sell well at Actas stores, I would first like to show some recent interior space examples presented by famous Japanese interior designers. Of course, these are not the only styles accepted in Japanese market, but they represent space that are relatively easy for many people to accept. So I would like to introduce them as reference examples. Let us start with this one. This sofa is fabric sofa, and the space use mulch light sources combined with the materials used in the room. The result is soft and comfortable atmosphere. They are creating comfortable atmosphere. Although black is also used in this room, the space does not feel so heavy. Instead, it adds a stylish touch to the interior. This space is another example and also gives a soft impression. The soft and warm lighting immediately catch the eye, but the most distinctive feature is the furniture itself. The sofa has a round shape and soft upholstery. And this space is similar to the previous one. A softly carved sofa and a textured rug and the upholstery, wooden furniture, and plants and art. They also add a sense of refinement and the richness to the space. So, in response to these trends, how has Actas designed products and their retail spaces? This space is one of the examples that Actas are showing. The space incorporates beige and black tones, shade lamps that create soft lighting, rounded furniture, as well as a balanced use of wooden furniture and plants. It is also interesting that black is intentionally used in this space. According to a store manager I interviewed, if white had been used instead of black, the space would become too soft. Many of the customers who visit the store and said to be relatively rich and energetic working women. Therefore, black was introduced in order to add a sense of strength and stylishness to the space. So, what we saw in the previous page is the idyllic space that Actas was thinking. And next, I would like to introduce a sofa that sells well at this store of Actas, which is located in the center of Tokyo. It includes a sofa about 2 meters wide and a single seat chaise. Even in wealthy households, homes in Tokyo are not necessarily large. For this reason, sofas that can expand in size through different combinations of modules tend to sell well. In general, fabric sofas are the main products, but in the high-end segment, there are also some leather sofas. However, even these are often finished in muted colors. Here again, we see the round tables that are sold well at Actas. Round tables works very well with rectangular living areas. This particular table is aimed at the high-end market, and its distinctive feature is that the tabletop is made of travertine. Stone with this kind of color and texture combines a sense of luxury, a slightly extraordinary atmosphere and softness, which fits well with current interior trends in Japan. Finally, let me introduce the last example sold in Actas. This type of sofa with movable backrests and no armrests has been becoming extremely popular among young consumers in Japan. It is often referred to as a floating sofa. Until a few years ago, it was common in Japan for a television to be placed in the living room. With the sofa positioned in front of the TV. However, many young people in Japan are gradually moving away from watching television. Instead of watching TV, they often use their smartphones or tablets while sitting on the sofa. As a result, we can say that the form of the sofa itself is changing and evolving. The upholstery used here is a little too vivid, but it is intended to catch the eye at the store. In reality, it would rarely sell in Japan exactly in this color. Customers would change the upholstery. However, the purpose of displaying this sofa is to challenge the conventional concept of sofas and to propose new ideas to consumers visiting the stores. So the keywords here are soft, elegant, and gentle spaces. Of course, this is not the only trend, but at least in 2026 in Japan, this style is likely to continue to be influential in Japan. That is all of my speech. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for your sharing. Vâng ạ, và vừa rồi là phần chia sẻ với rất nhiều thông tin của các đại diện đến từ Nhật Bản. Và sau khi mà chúng ta đã có cái nhìn tổng quan, chúng ta sẽ cùng di chuyển sang phần khai phá các thị trường phi truyền thống. Và ở phần này, chúng ta sẽ lắng nghe phần chia sẻ đến từ các đại diện Việt Nam. Moving forward, we will explore untapped in non-traditional markets. Xin được mời lên sân khấu bà Lê Vân Thanh Trà, Giám đốc phát triển thị trường đến từ Tour of ASEAN Việt Nam sẽ chia sẻ những kinh nghiệm thực tế. And now we would like to the stage Miss Lê Vân Thanh Trà, Market Development Director at South of Vietnam. Thank you and welcome to the stage.
Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here today at VIFA and also the second time working with Liên Minh for this kind of event. Yes, so to continue the discussion, the seminar that we have today, and after having some very inspiring, interesting data from our previous panelists, I would like to focus more on the Vietnam market and how Vietnam company can adapt and can take the change, lead the change in this situation. Very quickly about Source of Asia. Basically, Source of Asia is a company. We are a consulting companies that work with businesses to develop business in a new market. So in the market expansion division in which I work for, my main, mission is to work with businesses, Vietnamese or overseas businesses, to grow and to develop in a new market. And I believe that my roles and also the experience working with companies can be something interesting for you, so I can share some more insights when working with the companies. So Source of Asia, we are in Ho Chi Minh City. We work with a lot of clients overseas, and more we work with Vietnamese company to go abroad. We have a big worldwide network and presence. We are the company is based in Ho Chi Minh City asset, but we have also the representation in South Korea, in Europe, and partners all over the world. So that's why we have a very big network in all the industries. So yes, I think that my presentation can complete and also duplicate a little bit with some information that had been shared by Stefan before. We still see that the furniture market is still a market an interesting market, and we see a lot of positive numbers, figures in the last few years. So basically, here I put some kind of numbers for your information. Of course, the number can differ from one source to another, so just don't compare, just to have a big picture of this. And once again, I can confirm that furniture is still one of the sectors, the key sector for Vietnam. Yes, the the main import market that we can see here, the 5 market that I mentioned here, dominate the market overall. We still see again globally some trend and change in the way that people work around the world. So basically, of course, China still remain one of the biggest suppliers in the whole world. But again, we see that Southeast Asia, Asia Pacific gain more and more their place in the supply chain. And second things I would like to highlight here is about the regionalization, meaning that each region, each continent prefer also more and more focusing on using their the product coming within their region. People now are looking for more and more sustainable and multi-functional product. As said, they are not looking for a sofa, but a sofa bed, for example. They look for a dining table with the capacity to reduce or extend the length depending on the number of guests, for example. So we are not only selling a table, we are selling a table that can adapt to several needs, for example. And of course, we see more and more e-commerce now. Before, we didn't think that we can buy something, a table on internet. Now we can. So basically, we see also a lot of cross-border e-commerce platform that allowing you to order a product overseas and you receive in front of your door, for example. This is something that allows people have more choice in their consumption. Talking about Vietnam, yes. First of all, I would like to this is not observation that the retail sector is facing some challenging situation now. Retail, when talking about retail, we talk a lot about fashion, home decoration, something like that, meaning that we are producing more than we are buying. And actually, furniture is more or less the same situation. However, the record and the numbers here still showing that, once again, furniture is one of our key sectors in Vietnam, both for production and for exportation. So basically, in 2024, we get a very good numbers. 2025, we still reach a great number, even below what we are targeted to have, but it's still very promising. And here I would like to list down what we call the big 5 in the furniture, the 5 big clients for Vietnam in furniture, in which USA is like they are the very big player. We export to the USA represents more than 50% of our exports. Following that, Japan is now the second place in the ranking, and they now overpass China. China was before our very, very big. They still now, but now with the Japan export, we also have a very good perspective with Japan. We also have China, South Korea, and the other country. So basically, EU, UK, and Canada normally cannot be zoned like one zone, but just to give you an idea of who and to whom we export after the Big Four. Yes, again, 2024 and 2025, we talk a lot about a lot of key economic variable. We know that in many countries, we have a lot of changes with the election, for example, that can change the strategy a lot. Description to shipping, and it is said to say that this kind of variable still to continue in 2026. So from year to year, we say that next year will be better than the last year. Unfortunately, we still need to anticipate this kind of situation. Today, about the shipping issue, we still have to take it into consideration when we talk about exports with the current situation with Iran. I don't want to mention here. Market saturation, most of in retail that I mentioned before, and also the option that people are now choose less products from China can be also something that we need to be attention. Actually, our products is made in Vietnam, but for some cases, our raw materials come from China. So the origin of a product can be also something that we need to take into consideration. And the fact that, as I said before, US is one of our biggest market can be something not dangerous, but something that we need to be very careful, because anything related to the US can impact our strategy and operation because of the tariff, because of, and actually, as you can see, and I think you have shared before in Japan, the fact that in the US now, the mortgage or the rental interest for buying a new house is very high now, and people don't buy more, don't buy new, don't buy more. So actually, that will affect significantly the trend and the needs in furniture. And of course, as Stefan mentioned before, we have more and more standards to respect, and basically, and most of them apply for US and EU markets. So I list here some main standards, and that this is something that we need to really consider when we do our export. Okay, moving for slide trước. Slide trước còn cái gì nữa? Slide trước. Okay, so again, now, and I believe Stefan had mentioned before, Vietnam must position ourselves as business partner. We are not only like someone who supply product only, but we need to be a partner when we work with our foreign customers. When talking about New Horizon, why we need to diversify our portfolio and our client portfolio as well. So this is some recommendation, just recommendation, because I understand that each businesses will have different strategy and targets. So basically, US, of course, because they are the biggest, they are our biggest client, so we cannot like ignore them. We still continue to work with them, but smarter. Northeast Asia is a market that we can really access to. And for example, Takanori shared before, Japan now with the new branded, and we saw that Vietnam is one of the supplying partners. It's a very good and interesting information. Talking about the Middle East. Middle East is also a new market that we can target. I will come back with this later. And of course, we maintain our relationship that we have built with the EU before. So basically, Vietnam, we have a very big advantages regarding the free trade agreement. Vietnam is one of the countries that have the most, a lot of free trade agreement comparing to the other country. The free trade agreement we have can be with EU, not yet with with US, but we have like agreement, and also a lot of intra-ASEAN free trade agreement. This is something that we can take into consideration and as an asset. Yes, the trend of regionalization and diversification can support us in supplying to our nearby, our neighbor countries. And the third recommendation is about diversifying our product catalog. Not only for like we used to work with a country, an order with an item, but we need also to expand it, do it differently, nicely, or a new option that we can offer to our clients. And of course, the customization to adapt our order to one customer to another, for example. So basically, that's why I mention and I insist on the fact that South of Asia, when we work with a lot of company supporting them in the export, we understand the pain point, we understand the regulation, we understand the requirement. That's why we can give you some advisory and some support in operation when you do your export. Yes, this is something that I would like to focus, and I think that Stephen had already mentioned in some of the slides before. First, Northern ASEAN like South Korea, Japan. Japan can be our benchmark for quality. South Korea can be very interesting for us to learn about more trend, for example. The trend in using furniture. But of course, each of the country, each of the market require different and specific standards that we need to respect and follow. For example, Northern Asia, it's more about the lead time. You need to be very strict on the operation. Stable quality, we cannot do a very good order and then the next one with different quality. Middle East, why I mention it, Middle East is a big market for furniture and especially from hospitality. Hospitality's project in the Middle East is rising, and they are requesting us stable partner that can supply them with a concept, with a full set, a concept, and not only like a number of chairs or number of beds, for example. But again, the requirement for Middle East is more about the fire resistant that I mentioned here. Of course, the timeline, because they work on the project basis. So that's why the timeline and the respect is very crucial. India, again, Stephen had mentioned before, India is a very big and interesting market for the population. And they are shifting from the traditional needs to the more modernized consumption trend. And UK and Eastern Europe, of course, they still remain our big partners. And so basically, here we can see that the Eastern Europe can be, they themselves are new factories of Europe. For example, a lot of factories in Poland, a lot of factories in Republic Czech is now the factory for Eastern Europe, for Western Europe. So we work with Eastern Europe. Eastern Europe work with Western Europe. So we can be also a bridge to access to Western Europe. But again, in Europe, all kind of compliance, safety compliance, EFC is something very important for them. Moving forward, how we can adapt our strategy to this new change. Again, now I see that the growth is no longer about more. It is not because we produce more that we can gain and get growth. It is something about where we can put our effort in this situation. So basically, if we take the big five, we know that we can work with a high volume, but we have high competition, and the regulation is very strict now. And now if we move to the new market, we may gain higher margin. The growth is more rapid, and we can build proactively our strategy adapting for that. So basically, when we work with the traditional, with order basis client, maybe we can gain like 5 to 8% of margin. In case we move to like project basis, the margin can be up to 15 to 18%, for example, just for example. Yes, Vietnam should not produce and supply product only, but about solution, meaning that we bring them a concept, we bring them a whole like story about what we are selling. So this is the three sector that I would like to recommend. Hospitality, as said before, we can move. Our strategy is to move from B2B to B2C. And then we can target the second segment is about high-end niche standards, meaning that we will provide them a product, but the reason why we use this kind of materials instead of the other can make the difference. For example, in Vietnam, we have a lot of bamboo materials, and bamboo is well known for like eco-friendly or something like that. We, as before, people are now focused on wellness and ergonomics. For example, they want a chair, but the chairs should have the backrest adapting to their bike, supporting their bike, for example. This is good for their health. So it is something that we can integrate into our product. So basically, eco-luxury, eco-friendly, and also a storytelling about that. And of course, we cannot ignore retail. Even when retails now, we have some like back and up and down situation, but retails is still very important. But we need to play it smart. So we move from OEM to ODM. ODM, like Stefan have mentioned before. OBM, I think we can, but not yet. And we can start with the small items, for example, home decoration, not a furniture, but some home decoration. And OBM, I can say that, for example, Hanoi is a good example for OBM. They do the lacquer product, and now they position themselves very successfully on the international market. Yes, so the point here is to move from made in Vietnam to made by Vietnam. And why Vietnam? This is our job and your job to be with. So again, the thing that we should not compete with our competitors, because each of us have a very big and strong competitive advantages, but we should supply the market with more strategy and smarter strategy. The digital access and e-commerce is also something that people in Vietnam can and should prepare for. Instead of working directly with the suppliers, we can also diversify our distribution channel. Some also to prepare for what we should do. Yes, the requirement and compliance is something that we repeat and repeat, and it is interesting, but it is surprising to see that sometimes Vietnamese company have not prepared for this, are not yet ready for this. For example, they want to export, but when talking about the compliance, the standard, the certificate, some of them don't have. And even when I work with Vietnamese companies, it happens that they say that they already export. They confirm that they already export. But when I ask about to where, to whom they export to, they are not able to answer, because they work with a third party. They work with an intermediary. And so basically this third party take care of the export process, and Vietnamese business themselves, they don't know about who is my end client and to whom, to that client, what kind of certificate or what kind of requirement I need to follow. And it is very, how to say, dangerous, because you don't take lead of your order. You don't take lead of your relationship with your clients. And in case the client change something, you are not able to adapt swiftly. So again, the compliance is very important, and you need to define first what market you want to export, to prepare accordingly. Because it is not because you are targeting the US market, but you will focus your effort in doing the FSC, which is more for the EU market, for example. This is the waste of time. So you need to understand your market and to understand what kind of certificate and standard they require in order to prepare it promptly. The second thing is about having multiple options. So I still have some of my clients. They are doing great, but they are more like, I'm standing here and I am waiting for my client to place the order. So basically, they are not in the proactive approach in their business. And in case that client drop the order, they will lose all of their revenue of the year. And this is not something that we see sustainable for the long term. So yes, we need to have multiple like backup option to protect ourselves. When talking about the internal operation, yes, you need to make sure that you have the capacity to take a new order, because your capacity right now is to answer to the current order. But in case we have a new order, how to extend your production capacity, this is something that you need to prepare in advance. there is something funny that I happen to work with a client in Vietnam. They export, but because again they export through a third party, and actually they don't have their website in English, for example. The website is still in Vietnamese, and that's why we still also start with them to rebuild the website in order to meet the international standard, for example. So this is something that we call internal preparation and operation management. Yes, about having the partnership with the reliable suppliers is very important, especially in the area when everything can change. The tariff can change, the logistic cost can change. So you need to work with someone that you are familiar with and trustful for you. And yes, our role here again is to assess with you for what kind of preparation, what kind of documentation that you need to work. I just want to separate the wishes target and the suitable target, meaning that some companies want to go to the US, for example. They want to export to the US because for them the US is a big kid market, a lot of potential. I agree. But when doing the internal assessment, we feel like you are not yet ready for the US market because of paperwork, because of capacity, anything that you can have. And in that case, instead of targeting the US at own cost, you can start with smaller or another market. Indonesia, Malaysia, for example. For them, you are already to export, and you can start your export very soon. So that would have you to have very first experience in exporting, working with international partners. And so that's why I call this suitable markets. So suitable market first before you're like, I would like to go somewhere. So we need to very, realistic in our capacity and also the current situation. And of course, the operation here mentioned and include also all kind of digitalization, automation, for example. Digitalization is not about doing everything digital, but you can start with your paperwork, for example. The traceability now is one of the key criteria for international partner, and you need to have your paper, all the document documented, and to show the origin of your materials is very important. So start with this. Automation is not about buying robot to do your work. The workmanship is very important. But you can start, for example, in Vietnam, we are very strong in CNC. And as I said before, working with international partner, they require regulation and the similitude of your product order after order. It is not because you do a very good order that the next one you can do less. So be very, regular in the quality that you deliver. There is 3 approaches that I would like to recommend here. So first, it is your choice to create the direct demand. So you are the one who proposed this kind of product, this kind of concept, using this kind of materials, for example. You are the one who own your product and your idea. The second thing is about having market footprints in a new market. In case that you are not yet in the US, you are not yet in the EU, but you can have reliable partners in this market. This can give you a big how to say, big uh, green tick for your businesses, because you have someone that our final client can access to. And of course, take advantage of your network and FTA, because in the business context, FTA is something that can save you a lot in terms of cost. Okay, this is only for example only. I took the 100-day playbook, but it can change, it can adapt. It's different when you produce a chair compared to producing a big project, for example. So it's just an example of the milestone and the timeline. And just the idea is to divide your timeline into several phases. The first phase is about self-reflection. What you really want to do, can you do it with what internal resources or external, for example. And when you have a period of self-reflection, you can move to select the suitable market for you, and you can do the first pilot project during the next period. And once everything is good, everything is compliant, everything can match together, we can finally move to the deal closing and then standardizing your process for this market. So this is an example, so you can have a reference. So as a conclusion, we know that everything is changing, and we need also to be a game changer. We have the choice to remain traditional, do what we are doing right now and waiting for new things to happen. Or we can proactively take the lead and take also the risk when doing something new, but that would allow you to proactively lead the change, and also to not be dependent to what's happening. So again, we would like to see more and more Vietnamese businesses going abroad, success in a new market. But for this, we need to be prepared. And of course, as a business advisory company, we are ready to work with you and to help you going abroad. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. Xin được cảm ơn những lời chia sẻ vừa rồi ạ. Rất chi tiết và vô cùng đầy đủ thông tin ngày hôm nay cho phần chia sẻ của bà Lê Vân Thanh Trà. Và nối tiếp theo trong chương trình ngày hôm nay, chúng ta sẽ cùng đến với nội dung bản sắc thương hiệu và lợi thế cạnh tranh. Và chúng ta sẽ cùng lắng nghe phần chia sẻ từ ông Miko Costa, CEO và nhà sáng lập thương hiệu Lexus từ Ba Lan. And now we will focus on a core elements, radical USB and branding. Please welcome Mr. Miko Costa, CEO and founder of Lexus from Poland to the States.
Hello, everyone. Yes, my name is Michael Kostka, and I am CEO of Lexus from Poland. And today, I want to share an example idea. The market being in today's being good is not enough. If a company does not have a real advantage, it's become invisible. Today, the market is very competitive. Customers have many options. So if the company doesn't have a real advantage, it's become invisible. What happened? Oh. That's why beginning just good is not longer enough. Many companies look very similar today. They sell the same products and in a similar way. They use the similar language and similar offers. So the customers, everything starts to feel the same. Moving on, quality, price, and service. This is no longer USP. Namely, it stands for unique selling proposition. Of course, quality, price, and service are important. But today, everybody says the same thing. So this is no longer a real USP. This is only the basic standard. Now I'm going to venture a bold guess. Vitamin is not equal to painkiller. The market pays for the real painkiller, not for vitamins. A vitamin is nice to have. A painkiller solves a real problem. So if we want to grow, we need to solve a real pain point for the customers. Here is a simple example. When people see different interiors, they react very quickly. Some feel basic, some feel more attractive, and some valuable. People choose with their eyes. Design change perception. What would we like to choose? For my opinion, these interiors are very similar. They don't have a unique USP. If everything looks the same, customer can compare only with the price, and when the price is only the difference, margins comes down. This is dangerous place for every company and every brand. Lectus also started in a simple way. At the beginning, it was a collection of ideas, products, and an inspiration. We are learning, testing, and searching for our direction. I think many companies go through this stage. A real USP starts with a decision. You choose who you are and who you are not. And every decision has cost, because you cannot be everything for everyone. For example, in our company, we decide to reduce the number of products from 15,000 to only 3,000 in order to become more consistent in image. We had to resign from some things which allowed to develop us to grow. Consequently, we started a collaboration with Sonia Bohosiewicz, Polish actress, and Ola Ziarek. The results can you see in these images. And this decision was very crucial because we moved from the standard e-commerce marketplace to create the brand. We deleted many products from our site to keep only our products to create the brand. For me, a true USP is not just a slogan. You do not invent in one meeting. You discover it in the market or you develop in over time through product focus, consistency, and real customer needs. And sometimes a big change starts with one decision. A decision to focus, a decision to simplify, a decision to build something more consistent and more valuable and more distinctive. So if you work in interiors, let's talk. We are open for new ideas, new products, and new partnerships. We believe good design and clear proposition can create a business value. Yes, and thank you very much. My name is Michael Kostka. I represent the Lectus company from Poland.
Thank you so much. Xin được cảm ơn phần chia sẻ vừa rồi ạ. Và có lẽ là chúng ta sẽ gặp lại các diễn giả ngay phần Q&A ngay sau đây thưa quý vị. Và xin được mời quý vị, chúng ta sẽ cùng chuẩn bị những câu hỏi để ngày hôm nay chúng ta sẽ gửi đến quý diễn giả. Nếu như mà quý vị có những thắc mắc nào cần được giải đáp, và quý vị chúng ta có thể đặt câu hỏi tiếng Anh, và sau đó thì phía dưới chúng tôi đã chuẩn bị những chiếc tai nghe để quý vị có thể cùng lắng nghe những thông tin chia sẻ thông qua thông dịch viên của chúng tôi. Và quý vị đừng ngần ngại, chúng ta hãy cùng sẵn sàng để gửi những câu hỏi đến cho các diễn giả qua cách là quý vị hãy đưa cánh tay và chúng tôi sẽ gửi chiếc micro đến để quý vị có thể gửi câu hỏi và nhận được câu trả lời trực tiếp ngay trong sự kiện ngày hôm nay. Và chúng tôi tin chắc rằng đây sẽ là một khoảng thời gian quý báu, một dịp đáng giá để chúng ta gửi những câu hỏi đến các vị diễn giả và được giải đáp trực tiếp ngay tại chương trình thưa quý vị. Và xin được nhờ ban tổ chức sẽ cùng hỗ trợ trên sân khấu những chiếc ghế để chúng ta sẽ cùng chào đón sự quay lại của quý diễn giả. Dạ, một lần nữa Thúy Vi xin mời quý vị là hãy cùng sẵn sàng chuẩn bị đưa cánh tay lên để có thể cùng nhau lắng nghe các phần chia sẻ và được giải đáp ngay tại chương trình ngày hôm nay. If you have any question, please raise your hand. Vâng ạ, và chúng tôi sẽ gửi chiếc micro đến cho quý vị để nhận được câu trả lời từ quý vị. Và bây giờ chúng ta sẽ cùng chào đón các diễn giả quay trở lại sân khấu để cùng bắt đầu cho phiên thảo luận ngày hôm nay cùng với những thông tin bổ ích và những giải đáp sát sao nhất trong chương trình ngày hôm nay thưa quý vị. And now I would like to invite all our speakers back to the stage for the panel discussion. Và bây giờ chúng ta sẽ cùng chào đón trên sân khấu, quay trở lại sân khấu ngày hôm nay. And now we invite come to the stage Mr. Stephen Miochen, and come to the stage Mr. Takanori Kigure, and we would like come to the stage Miss Lê Vân Thanh Trà, and welcome back the stage Mr. Michael Costa. Xin được chào đón các diễn giả, chúng ta sẽ quay trở lại cho sân khấu ngày hôm nay. Vâng ạ. Và sau khi các diễn giả đã có mặt trên sân khấu thì xin được mời phía dưới, ban tổ chức sẽ sẵn sàng cầm trên tay chiếc micro để có thể cùng truyền cho quý khán giả có câu hỏi trong ngày hôm nay. Và không biết là phía bên dưới có vị khán giả nào chúng ta muốn gửi câu hỏi đến các diễn giả. Xin được mời quý vị, chúng ta sẽ đưa cánh tay lên ạ. Dạ, xin được mời quý vị, nếu như mà chúng ta có câu hỏi thì chúng ta hãy đưa cánh tay lên để cùng nhau nhận về cho mình chiếc micro và gửi câu hỏi để có thể nhận được phần giải đáp trực tiếp ngay trong chương trình ngày hôm nay từ quý diễn giả. And if you have any question, please. Vâng ạ, và xin mời bạn sẽ gửi câu hỏi đến cho các diễn giả ngày hôm nay ạ.
So good morning, speakers. Thank you for the insightful presentation. And so I have some questions for each of you regarding to your presentation. So first for Mr. Stephen. Okay, so looking at 2026, which specific global regulation currently poses the biggest barrier to entry for the furniture exporters? And the second question is for Mr. Kigure. So what is the single most important material innovation currently driving the consumer decisions in the Japanese market? The third question is for Ms. Jia. So between the GCC, India, and Eastern Europe, so which region offers the faster ROI for a manufacturer starting from scratch? And the final question is for Mr. Michael. So in your second win framework, what is the one feature a brand should sacrifice first to achieve the faster global scaling? That is all of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Xin được cảm ơn những câu hỏi vừa rồi và xin được mời quý diễn giả.
Can you please repeat your question? Sorry.
Hello. So your question is, at 2026, which specific global regulation currently poses the biggest barrier to entry for furniture exporters?
Yeah, I think you have some big challenges this year. Nobody knows how the prices and the costs will develop in this year. Because now we have the war at Iran and we see the rising costs in gas and oil, and we don't know what impact this has during the whole year for furniture industry, for furniture exporters, and what it means for end customers, for the mood of the end customers. Do they want to consume more or not? If you see it from a German or a European perspective, the German consumers are not willing to spend so much money at this time for buying new furniture, and that has an impact to the exporters and to the retailers and so on. So the market is in a difficult situation right now, and if I would have or if I would be in Germany, we would say if I had a bowl of glass and I could see what will happen, I could answer you the questions, but at the moment it is very difficult to have a forecast for what will happen now, unfortunately.
Thank you so much, Mr. Stephens. And next, we will invite answers.
Your question is about material innovations in Japan, is it right? Currently, because price of some types of wood are surging, such as black walnut and white oak, the wooden furniture is now transfers to other species such as red oaks and like cherry. Some manufacturers have begun to adapting ceramics table and the tables with steel legs. And in this respect, the material innovation has been going on.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Takanori.
Okay, regarding my question is about what to choose for the OEM market among the Middle East, India, and Eastern Europe, right? I think, as I mentioned, if we have a chance to work with the Middle East for the hospitality project, it would be like a whole project and a concept that we will work with them. Regarding the India is now a new market with a great potential, but because India is also a big population, and when talking about big population, we don't have the same needs, we don't have the same trend, we don't have the same taste for everyone. So this is a mass market because we can count on the volume, but we cannot like guarantee that everything that we can supply can adapt to everyone. My recommendation and what I can see is working with the EU, the Eastern EU companies, because they also are suppliers for the other places in the world. So they know what they need. So basically, why we work with the Eastern Europe? Because in Eastern Europe, we still have a lot of factories, but the issue now in that area is about the cost, about the labor cost, and of course, Vietnam can be very competitive in terms of labor cost, and we also have the similar and good quality labor producing very good product. So we can be their suppliers, and then they work with Western Europe or US or anything else. But we must make sure that we can supply a sustainable and suitable product for them in the supply chains. So I would go with the Eastern Europe first, then India, then Middle East. But again, it depends on the project that you are working on. There is no like common formula for everyone.
Regarding the question about how can the brands grow in international, I think first the brands need to know many things about your customer. Who is our customer? Who we can sell? Because every market is not the same. In my thinking, we can think global, but we need to operate local, because every market is not in the same stage. For example, like Mr. Ten about Tokyo, there are very small floats, and the global trends also go like the living spaces get smaller, and also the trends in every country is not the same. That's my meaning is, yes, we can grow and international, but we need still operating and thinking local. That's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Xin được cảm ơn những lời chia sẻ vừa rồi, và có lẽ là các khán giả của chúng ta đã có được những câu trả lời thật chi tiết và vô cùng sát sao cho câu hỏi vừa rồi. Và tiếp theo xin được mời những câu hỏi nối tiếp được gửi đến cho quý diễn giả. And please raise your hands up, please.
Thank you for all the speakers. I'm actually one of the retailer in Australia. So my question is very simple and only one question. As a retailer, right, we come to the fair like this, and I'm looking for the suppliers. Right, and we actually do. We got a store in Western Australia selling furniture there, and I come to the fair like the one in here, and later on the one in China, CIBF, right? I can meet directly with the suppliers, and I import directly from suppliers in China and Malaysia and Vietnam. I don't need to go through any trading company or wholesale. It's going okay for the last few years, but recently I see on TikTok or Facebook, there's a lot of the suppliers, like Mr. Cha mentioned before, they advertise directly from China to Australia, for example, and that's something make me concerned, you know. And because I like the way I'm doing now is I compete directly with the wholesale, right? And I bring a lot of container from China to Australia at the moment. Even I'm this retailer, so some of the suppliers they also do directly advertising to Australia, and even invite the people come over, like Foshan, for example, come to visit the factory and can buy the whole house furniture to China. So my simple question is, how is danger to the retailer like me at the moment? Yeah, and any of the speaker can help me to this question. Yeah, thank you.
We also have the same problem in a few years ago. That's we decide to build own brands. We design the products, we protect the products in like license, and then when we talk with the supplier, we just work only in inclusive products. That's I mean. The product is only for my brand. They cannot sell themselves to your customers. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Michael. And how many answers? Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Please.
Yes, your question is about how to better protect retailer like yours. But in the global supply chain and in the value chain, everyone is in danger. Because we are now at the competition is high. We cannot control who is doing what they will do, and how impact they will have with us. So basically, I'm in the business model. I would like to go with a very strong relationship with your partners. Position yourself like a business partner and not like buyer and seller. Because buyer and seller, once again, someone from you have mentioned that if it's directly related to the cost, the margin will drop, because everybody will see the same product for different price. So I would go for the cheaper, mentally, naturally. But again, consumer now, they are smart. They know that the product that costs less may not be the best product in the long run. But actually, they understand that the higher price is not guarantee that is the best product in the world. So again, my story is about building a build trust. Why a supplier would work with you, rather than because I always offer the best option in terms of cost. But it's all about the relationship, about the trustfulness, about the win-win situation. We all understand that everybody is in trouble. It's applied for everyone in the retail, all kinds of categories. But it is not because we are now in the struggle situation that we will stop our business. We need to survive. But we need to also build something that can help us to live today, tomorrow, and in 3 months, 6 months. So we need to see something bigger. We need to project ourselves with strategic relationship and partnerships, and not only you are a good supplier, I buy from you and then I gain from you. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay, thank you. Xin được cảm ơn những câu trả lời vừa rồi. Và không biết là quý vị ơi, chúng ta có còn câu hỏi nào gửi đến cho các diễn giả nữa không thì quý vị chúng ta hãy đưa cánh tay lên. And if you have any questions, please raise your hands. Vâng ạ. Có lẽ là cũng không còn những câu hỏi nào được gửi đến cho các vị diễn giả trực tiếp trong chương trình ngày hôm nay. Nhưng nếu như mà quý vị chúng ta có muốn trò chuyện trao đổi hoặc làm việc với quý diễn giả thì quý vị chúng ta đã có những thông tin của quý diễn giả, những thông tin email được trình bày cuối phần trình bày của quý diễn giả. And thank you so much for your sharing. Xin được cảm ơn quý vị rất nhiều ạ. Và phần chia sẻ vừa rồi cũng đã khép lại chương trình ngày hôm nay. Và xin được cảm ơn quý vị chúng ta đã có mặt đến cuối chương trình để cùng lắng nghe những chia sẻ bổ ích từ quý diễn giả. Và Thúy Vi hy vọng rằng những chia sẻ ấy ngày hôm nay sẽ giúp cho quý vị có thêm được nhiều kiến thức cũng như là có những định hướng tuyệt vời sắp tới cho doanh nghiệp của quý vị. Xin được cảm ơn quý vị rất nhiều and thank you so much for your sharing. Một tràng pháo tay để cảm ơn quý diễn giả cuối chương trình hôm nay được không ạ? Thank you. And please take your stage. And xin được mời quý vị chúng ta sẽ cùng tiến lên sân khấu để sẽ cùng có những bức ảnh thật đẹp của chương trình ngày hôm nay để lưu giữ lại những khoảnh khắc thật trọn vẹn cùng với quý diễn giả. Và xin được mời những vị khách của chúng tôi còn nán lại đến cuối chương trình ngày hôm nay. Đừng ngần ngại, chúng ta hãy cùng tiến lên sân khấu nha quý vị ơi, để sẽ cùng nhau có một bức ảnh thật là đẹp cùng với quý diễn giả ngày hôm nay ạ. Dạ vâng ạ, xin được mời những vị khách còn có mặt trong cuối chương trình ngày hôm nay. Chúng ta sẽ cùng tiến lên sân khấu ạ.